Welcome. One of you, Prathameshale3625, left a comment for me on one of my videos. Thank you, because I made this video for you. Hey, I've been watching your drills and implementing them, and so far I'm getting better responses from my gymnast. Awesome. However, I'm stuck on teaching circles on mushroom. That's where the cricket sound would go in, but I don't have an editor and I'm lazy, so just imagine crickets there. I've watched a lot of drills on YouTube, but haven't found a proper solution. Can you help me with that? Well, I haven't coached men's gymnastics for a very long time, but I have. And when I was coaching recreational boys, I did come up with a way of teaching circles on a mushroom. So we're going to dive into what I did. Now, I'm not saying this is going to actually help you. However, I am going to take the information and knowledge and understanding I have for gymnastics and apply it to this problem. And then you can test it out. Then you can say, Raleigh, these ideas suck. Or you can say they were great. And then we can talk about it. And you can say, my kids are doing this. And then I'll make another video on improving this video. Let's work together and get into it. So here's my snazzy graphic. Mushroom circles. Open the gate, close the gate. Real fast. If you are new to my channel, my name is Raleigh Carter. I've been coaching gymnastics for over 25 years, and I've been bad at that for about 24 years. So I've just figured out like the last year how to put it all together. Basically, this channel exists for you who want to eventually make a career out of coaching, but you just don't want to suck at it for a really long time, and you don't want to be bad, and you actually want to be good at it, and you want to know how to get to high-level gymnastics in an efficient way so you're not like 82 years old when you finally figure out how to get to level 10. There's no gatekeeping here. I am giving you all the secrets and knowledge and information that I've acquired over the years. Most of the information I'm giving you is probably been stolen from somebody someplace. I doubt most of my ideas are original, but I have been around. I have observed, watched, listened, learned from smarter people than me, and so I'm compiling that information and giving it to you. In this phase of my life, I have the time and resources and energy and effort to make videos for you so that you can become better, because my objective for this next year is to see how the information I've acquired over the years can help impact the gymnastics community as a whole. So let's get into it. Mushroom circles. Open the gate, close the gate. I'm not going to get super heady into all of this stuff, so if you've never taught a mushroom circle before, this is probably not going to help you entirely. I'm assuming this gentleman knows how to teach a mushroom circle because he's already teaching them. So this is not a beginner crash course. This is kind of intermediate, maybe a little bit more advanced for some of you. Enough talking. Seal stretch. Start by teaching seal stretch. Seal stretch on a mushroom. That's the picture that I'm going to use right there. The hips need to be as close to the hands as possible, and they need to understand how to arch. Why? Because circling around a mushroom is a center of mass problem and a balancing problem, and it's not a strength or coordination problem. Most people are strong enough, like from the get-go, they're strong enough to support their body in a support position while circling. It actually doesn't take that much effort. In fact, the faster you circle, or the smoother essentially your circle becomes, the less energy it takes to support yourself. So strength isn't really the issue. Coordination actually isn't the issue either. While most people think it is, I want you to consider this. When the bicycle you are riding is moving, does it take more or less coordination to ride the bicycle? Hopefully you said less. See, riding a bicycle takes a lot of coordination to start it, but once the bicycle is moving, it doesn't take a lot of coordination. You can kind of chill. It's just going to ride. And that's a lot like circling. Getting started is the hardest part, but once you're started, you kind of just vibe with it. It's not that complicated. The physics kind of does the skill for you. Most people don't know how to let physics do the skill, and they try to muscle it too much, and then that's the problem. So we got to start with the seal stretch. So this is the most important first step, seal stretch. Now I want you to think about like the character is in a seal stretch position, okay? And we're going to start at the 0 point. So they're at the 0 number, and they're in their seal stretch position, 0 number, and we're just going to go to the right and to the left, trying to stay as arched as possible and kind of just glide the body to one side, back to the middle, and then to the other side, back to the middle. And what you're going to notice is people are going to want to jump and we don't want to jump. We actually want to use the arms to pivot the body and pull ourselves into ourselves. So if I'm going to be going to my right side, I'm going to be using my right arm to pull my right hip into my right arm. And if I'm going to go to the left side, I'm going to pull my left arm to pull my hip into the left side, trying to stay as arched as possible and as floaty or light as possible on the feet. So I'm leaning onto the arms, using the arms to create the pivoting, not using the legs to jump into the pivot. This is step one. Learn how to shift your weight from one arm to the other arm. To put this into simple perspective, put somebody on a bar on a front support and basically have them just lean side to side, right? You're in a front support on a bar, your arms would be down, and just lean side to side. And then ask a kid, take a rec kid, some kid that just average, normal type of kid. Ask them to lean to the side, and they're like, oh, I can do this. And then see if they can pick a hand up and put it back down. And you'll be surprised that a lot of kids can pick a hand up and put it back down after they figure out how to lock out their arm and how to lean on it. They can actually do that in one day, in one moment. They have to try, but it's totally capable, doable. Once a student can learn how to lean onto the arm, get the hip as close to the hand as possible that they're leaning on, they're basically in control of their center of mass. They're not getting pulled away. They're getting pulled into. And this is the first step of the entire story. So that's what we need to do. Then we need to start from the sides and pull ourselves back to the center. So now we would start at the left side and we would pull ourselves into the center, trying to let our feet are going to be gliding across the ground, not jumping to this position. But remember, we're seal stretching, so we're just trying to glide our body into that position. I'm going to kind of demonstrate this in a little bit, just kind of show you a really bad example. But you got to do it from both sides. Can you pull yourself back to center? Okay, then the question is, can you pull yourself from one side all the way through to the other side? And this is all shoulders, chest, leaning, counterbalancing. Because once you're counterbalancing, you become kind of weightless. It's really not that hard to just pivot your hips from one side to the other. Once you figure this out, this is it. Because what happens is most kids, when they start learning circles, what I understand, and I'm going to show you a video later on that's going to show this, is kids jump into the position and they go up. And when you jump up, you fall down and they can never get out of the down. We want to stay as low as possible and we want to never go up. We want to stay flat and we just want to stay low and flat the entire time. And then as the circle increases in speed, it will rise up. Kind of like one of those carnival rides where you sit in a chair that's hung on to chains and they spin you around and the chair goes higher and higher and higher because it's spinning faster and faster and faster. We don't have to worry about going up. Stay as low as you possibly can. And then as the circle increases in speed, it will rise automatically. Now, this goes into the. Let me take a pause right here. I'm gonna show you a really bad example of what I was just talking about before we get into that. So let me go back to here. Okay, let's see, where do I need to be? I have no idea what's happening at this moment in time. So give me a second. Okay, we're gonna move my camera and we're just gonna vibe with me. So just so we're clear, I'm going to use my desk here to be the example. So I'm in a seal stretch, and I can lean side to side. I can pick my hand up and lean, okay? And it's very easy to just lean and pull. I'm piking because my foot's kind of hitting a wall and a bunch of stuff, but you can see the hips wanting to come out. You just drop them in, and then you just pull. And you should be able to support yourself and just pull yourself from side to side without having to jump, which is what you see the kids end up doing. The kids are jumping. No, get your hips down and just pull yourself into the other arm. I can't fully get there because there's a wall on that side. But hopefully that kind of gives you an example. Get me back in frame again. Hopefully that gives you kind of an example of what that pulling action is going to be doing and how that actually needs to start the whole story. Let's get that figured out. Okay, so now we get into the coordination side, because once we can do that pull and that lean, let me fix my mic. Once we can do that pull and that lean, then the coordination starts to go, okay, well now we need to coordinate the arm. Now what I have seen is when the students are learning to lift the arm, they lift it ridiculously high. The time it takes to lift your arm up and put it back down, it's too late. So what I learned is that we can't lift the arm high. We have to actually think like we're taking the arm and sliding it around our body, not picking it up away from our body. So there's 3 things I teach when I start the process of how do I pass my arm. See, now I've already got the ability to circle my body side to side. So now I'm circling myself into my arm and my arm's in the way. And then I circle to the other side, my arm's in the way. So I'm on the back side of the gate and I need to open the gate. So I'm going to circle myself and I'm going to hit the gate. Don't open the gate before you hit it. Hit the gate, which means hit your body against your arm because now you're in a solid, strong, supported position. Okay, so you hit the gate. Then you're going to pick the arm up. Now, when you're doing this, you're going to realize you can't put all the weight on your left arm. This guy's going clockwise. So you can't put all the weight on your left arm, even though when you hit it. So you have to start leaning harder onto the right side as you go to pick it up. So you learn to hit the gate and lean, and the hit and lean become much more kinesthetic, natural, the proprioception's there, because now you're touching your arm and getting used to the touch initiates lean. Touch initiates lean and then hand lift. And as you go through the gate, you brush your arm through your body and you're just keeping contact with it. And then you close the gate. So you're opening the gate so you can get through. You close the gate so you stick it behind you. Okay, now the green is representing the hips. The hips have to lead. So we want the hips to lead, not the toes. And oftentimes what I found when I was teaching this, when kids were starting it off from the start position with a little leg separation, they'd kick into it, is they would jump and pull their feet in front of them and they'd be piked. And so their hips were not leading. So the only way I could get the hips to start leading more, one way was to make sure that the hips have to make contact with the arm before I can pick it up. And there's plenty of time to pick it up once you touch. It's just like you touch and you pick it up and you're still good to go. And so I use that as a reinforcement to say hips have to touch arm before I can pick arm up. Now I've got a reinforcement going on. So hips have to lead through the entire process. Then we're trying to set the arm back down behind us as quickly as we possibly can. Well, you know how you have to do that? You have to arch. Because the more you arch, the sooner you can get your hand down in line with your body. If you're piked, you can't get your arm down behind you fast enough. And so now you're learning to arch so you can get your hand down quicker. So now you're reinforcing that. And there's a game we'll play. I'll show you a game that you can play to reinforce this concept. So this becomes just one step. You got to get really good at this simplicity of this step, because once you understand this and the balance is there, you're going to finish the circle. The circle is not hard. This is the very first, most difficult part of setting everything up. Okay, so you get that position. Now, when the athlete is getting there, and there's some drills and stuff I'll show you, but the second part then becomes how do I finish the circle essentially? And finishing the circle has to become foot-driven, foot-led, and so that's why the feet are in green. The feet have to lead the finish of the circle. That's where we want to be more arched, essentially, not hollow, not piking through. And so the feet have to lead. Okay, well, how do we reinforce that the feet are going to lead? Well, there's a game that's going to help reinforce this. But again, we're going to still use the concept of I got to hit the gate. Okay, so you're going to hit the gate, you're going to open the gate, and then you're going to close the gate. Now notice that if you have a student who's doing like a 3/4 circle, let's just say, and they get to this part and they're not successful, well, where are their feet when they hit the gate? Their feet need to be in alignment with their shoulders. If not past, if not leading, and they're hitting the gate and their feet are already past their body because they're arching even more. So we want to hit the gate and have our feet in alignment. So automatically the athlete can know if I hit the gate and I can see my feet in front of me, it's wrong. I need to hit the gate and I can't see my feet in front of me. They got to be out to the side over here that I can't see at all. So, or they got to even be behind me. And so then I can't even see my feet at all. So that's how we're going to reinforce. We're going to hit the gate, and then where are our feet when we hit the gate? Once you can get to that spot, okay, I hit that, my arm got stuck and my feet are in the right spot, then you can just pick the hand up, put it back down, because your body's going to swing right through that section. You have to set it up correctly. It's just like twisting. If you don't set up the first quarter turn correctly, the rest of the twist is going to be off. So this is the mechanics. This is what we would call the coordination essentially, but really I'm just setting up the structure for everything else. Now here's a drill that I think reinforces everything, and it's really great. It's a great feedback. You can almost call it like a haptic feedback in some aspect, because it's like you got that touch aspect of it. So you put your foot on a slider. So here we have the example of the athlete starting in a seal stretch, right leg is in a furniture slider, one of those like plastic things with rubber foam on it, furniture slider. Okay, they kick their leg out to the side, and they only have one furniture slider, and they're going to swing their leg around and together, and then they're going to try to finish in a rear support. Now, the great thing about this is if the furniture slider goes flying away, that means that they brought their foot up in the air. That's where you're going to have a jumping problem. We don't want a jumping problem. We want to drive the hips down and keep pressure on the feet. If we can keep the furniture slider attached to our foot and circle around all the way to rear support, guaranteed this person is going to be able to do a full circle. That's the because now we know they're not jumping. They're actually swinging and circling properly with down pressure going through their body, their entire body. Because we can do a circle on a mushroom while our toes are still dragging across the floor. That's still possible. And again, more power means you will rise higher. So it's better to do a circle with your toes dragging across the floor and then learn how to go faster and faster so that your feet pick up. We don't need to do a high circle from the get-go. So this is your first drill, and it's very fun for kids because the slider goes flying away. They have to go retrieve it, and then they go back and they do it again. No big deal. They know when they messed up and they know when they did it right. And all you need to do is find somebody to do it right. Now, what you can also do is you can put pit cubes in front of them so that when they go to that rear support, they have to rear support over a pit cube. And you could stack pit cubes side by side. You could stack them. I wouldn't really do on top of each other. That's probably too high, but you could do them long ways. So you could have 4 pit cubes in length so that they can't slouch and touch a pit cube. So now they have to go over pit cubes. And you could even make a pit cube circle. So as they swing through, they have to make sure that they don't touch all the pit cubes as they're going around the pit cube. So they got to keep their hips up, but their feet have to stay on the ground. And so now you have this whole game being played of them trying to make as much circle as possible without hitting pit cubes, essentially. So that's very simple. And anybody can do this. This is a rec kid can do this. Now, this is how we build up out of that drill. So you get that drill with the slider, and I do all of this stuff simultaneously. So it'd be stations, and everyone's just going to do them simultaneously, and we're going to cycle through 2 or 3 times so we can get better at each thing. So again, you have image A where you're now able to be hands on a panel mat. You had in your start position, and you're basically going to try to circle around and finish in a rear support up on top of the panel mat. So this way we're starting low and finishing high. And that is kind of important. We need to know how to start low and finish high in the sense of when we're in the rear support, because then once our feet are up in front of us, they're going to drop down behind us, and that's going to help us finish the circle. So if we can kind of create this, I don't know if elliptical is really the right type of term, but it's kind of like this wobble off angle, rise. If we can kind of create this arc, it does aid and help in the circle. So you can use the pit cubes again here on the panel mats where you can try to get to the rear support with a pit cube. I'd suggest not starting with pit cubes, just start with the panel mat itself. It's hard enough. And don't really care if the kid is slouchy, if their butt is, dragging along the ground, if they just land in a seated position on the panel mat. The question is, can they circle and get themselves on top of it? I guarantee you in time, from watching somebody else do it better than them, they will start to figure it out. You don't really have to harp on do it perfect every single time. All they need to do is put in the effort and feel successful. Because eventually, once you add the pit cubes, that's going to put in enough incentive to just fix something. But you don't want to defeat a person to say, hey, you're bad at this. Let me prove how bad you are at this. And then add an obstacle that just proves to them that they shouldn't try. So you want to just encourage the effort that they're doing, even if it doesn't look good. Because in week 2, week 3, week 4, as it gets more familiar, more comfortable, it will clean up naturally. Just like how kids learn to ride bicycles. And then the thing is how do you get to the other side of the panel mat? So how do I circle around and not tag my feet on the front, but just hop over it and land on the other side? We're not going to try to complete a full circle, but this is going to get us that nice circle, rise, fall action that you're going to have that's going to be helping you. If somebody can do this, they can circle on a mushroom. All you need is this. It's like, yeah, if you could do that, the person can circle. That's not a non-issue at that point. Now here's a fun little game. Just imagine we're going clockwise. So we're going from the light blue block and it goes to the darker blue block. Okay. I should have had an arrow on here. Let's say give me 1 second. Format, arrange. I just doing this because, so we're traveling, this direction. Okay. We're starting there, traveling that direction. Okay. So you can stick a pit cube, one. I would only stick one. I wouldn't stick all of them out there, but I'm kind of showing you the positions and the spots that you could stick them. You could stick one pit cube out at the very beginning where you're supposed to hit the gate. So now you hit the gate and you kick the pit cube simultaneously. So it's like, can you hit the gate and kick the pit cube at the same time? If you kick the pit cube and then hit the gate, you're leading with your toes. If you hit the gate and never hit the pit cube, then something weird just happened. So it's like, how can I hit both at the same time? Then you can move the pit cube out a little bit. So now when they get comfortable hitting the gate, now they have to open the gate and swing through. They have a target to hit. Okay, now I need you to swing through and hit the target. Now, if this pit cube is really far away from them, they're going to be leaning the wrong direction. So some things you can do is pull the pit cubes closer to the mushroom so that they lean the opposite direction even harder so that their feet actually drag on the ground and hit the right spot. So you can get the shoulder lean based off of where you place the pit cube because their feet have to hit it, not their legs, not their shins, not something else. So wherever you put that pit cube, far or close away from the mushroom, is going to determine how much lean they have to have in the opposite direction. So that's a good way of controlling their lean by just adjusting where the pit cube is. And then you have the pit cube in front of them. So now they have to circle around and hit the pit cube. And then it just goes through the whole entire process. And so you can add one pit cube. You just take one pit cube and you just put it in each spot as they get better. And then they just slowly progress. Once you get through basically the 3/4, through both sides of opening and closing the gate, at that point, now we're just dealing with a confidence essentially of how do I shift back into the start position or back into the leaning side that I need to lean to pull myself through. Well, that goes back to the very first drill that we just had. And that would be the drill where we talked about where you're in that seal stretch position and you're arching. That's going to be essentially, if I'm finishing the circle, the only way to get back to the other side is to, again, initiate that pull. I'm going to pull on my arm and pull my hip through back to the first side that I need to get through of opening and closing the gate. And so that's why that first drill of being able to pivot your weight side to side without jumping is so important, because that's what it's going to feel like when you're trying to connect. And so that becomes, now I'm just going to add this caveat. For fun as a kid, I used to breakdance. And so a lot of this nuance of learning these types of things comes from understanding breakdancing and understanding how to use the hips to really swing your body around in certain movements. But I want to go to this YouTube, and I just want you to see a few things. So this is like the seal stretch that I'm talking about, where the boy is in an arch position and his hips are getting as close to his hands as possible. So this is the position we want to be in. You can stay in a straddle, and this is how you'd swing yourself from arm to arm, is in that nice seal stretch position. He's not going to do that. Here's our start position. I want you to see, this is very typical of a person doing a start position, is that they start, let's see here. So they start far away, and then they swing themselves in. But when you're working with a new kid, that always just messes them up. That distance of being far away, they jump into that arm. If we look, he's not jumping, he's pulling himself into that side. He's not jumping. His hips are staying very much the same height. And so he's pulling himself. And that's the key, is the younger kids aren't going to understand that. So they're going to jump. So I don't think starting far away like this is the way to go. I think you need to start much closer and worry about the first quarter, then the first half, then the first 3/4, and you don't need to put a lot of jump into it. Then as they get more consistent with their rhythm, their timing, their coordination, then you can add more power. Like any other skill, you can put the jump farther away or the feet farther away so they can pull faster into it. Now, if you look at where he's almost hitting his hand, and then look at how quickly that hand is getting down behind him, he's not picking it up very high, and there'll be another angle to show this. I don't know why the person does a little circle camera thing, but you see how it's like he's almost hitting his arm? That's where you're going to hit the gate. Then he opens the gate, and then he closes the gate, and he's leading. We're going to find it. I don't know why they did that for this gentleman. I also want to show, just get you seeing some pictures. So right here, this is where it's almost like you're hitting the gate, and then the heels are wanting to lead in the circle. I'm going to show you another. This young man does, so you can see his start position. This is a typical standard start position. The hips are too high and too far away from the hand, okay? And then he goes and jumps into it. That's not the way you're going to start teaching. You just don't need to start teaching that way, okay? What you need to do is be able to get your hips into your hand. Now you see he's leading with his toes, right? He's leading with his toes, not his hips, which you can do if you get fast enough. But he's also jumped up very high. And for someone who can't support themselves, they don't feel strong enough, their hips are going to drop and their feet are going to smash into the ground. So this is somebody who's far more advanced, almost has the ability to put in more power and more strength than what the technique is really, really could be using. He's using a little, I would say, a little poorer technique. No matter how good he is, he's muscling it. He's using too much muscle, and he could actually make it flow even better if he was not doing. I mean, look how far away his hips are and how he has to circle the toes around. Because what is he doing right now in this pike position? He's getting his hips as close to his hand as possible, or his center of his body as possible, because that's where most of his mass is, and he's bringing it in by piking. He's bringing it in by piking because he's too high, and so his body is falling, so he's trying to control the fall. If he was lower, he would be able to keep his body straighter and more arched, but because his toes are up, his body is falling, and so he has to bring the center of mass into his center and an alignment, and basically to make the circle happen. Now, he's doing great. There's nothing wrong with this kid, but this is the reason why he can't extend his hips. His toes would have to go down for his hips to go up, right? So his toes have to go down for his hips to go up. He's not going to be able to, at this speed, get his hips to go higher and leave his feet in the same spot. So his feet would have to drop. Well, how is his feet going to drop when his feet are way up here? If his feet dropped right now, he would probably just fall into the ground. He wouldn't be able to make the circle. So he's trying to keep his feet up. He has to keep his feet up because he has to keep the circle flat. He already started too high, so now he has to keep it up. So what does he have to do to keep it up? He pikes. Simple as that. He has to pike. And so when he goes to do his lean, he's doing his lean from a piked position because that's where he's at. And now here he is. He's a little bit high, pikey. Okay, look where his toes just went. Down, right? Down. And then he picks them up. But he's picking them up too early. Okay? And so we have some nuance going on. Whatever. This kid's great. Amazing. He's got a circle. But this is not the way I would teach a beginner to circle, because I know that a beginner is going to take longer to learn this type of circle, because it's going to take more effort and more strength. And this is not what you need to be doing with your time. So hopefully that was helpful in some regard of seeing what you could do with the steps. Obviously, if I could see what your kids looked like, I could see what the actual problem was, where they were actually stuck, I could give you more specific information. But this is the general gist of the whole entire thing that I would be chasing after and trying to improve upon. So until then, if you guys have video suggestions, I appreciate those that have left comments. Just remember that, I talked to a handful of you, maybe like 5 of you so far have left comments saying to make these types of videos. I still remember those that have made the suggestions, with whether it's handstands, back up rises, beam stuff, tumbling connections. I got you. I hear you. I see you. I'm going to be busting them out too. So I appreciate the support that I'm getting, and if you like my videos and you like what I'm doing and you appreciate the effort that I'm putting in, any comment that you make, just anything that's going to help my YouTube channel, it doesn't have to be meaningful. Just like it, subscribe it, share it. Put one of my videos on play and just chill in the background and just let it go. But anything you can do to help me would be fantastic. Not because I need that to happen, but because I want to reach more people like you. So if you think there's more coaches like you that could benefit from what you're benefiting from, then that's where I want your help, is to reach out to those coaches. I'm in the Facebook groups. It's got like 10,000 members. I'm an admin of the coaches hiring group on Facebook. I have interactions and connections with people, but I don't want to be like, hey, look at me, check out my videos, you should all watch me. I want it to come more organically from those of you that are supporting my channel, that are actually watching and listening and using my information, and through your excitement and your success, I would rather people learn about me through you. So I really appreciate those of you that have taken my information, applied it. I really appreciate you that have seen the results, and I look forward to engaging further in more conversation. Have a great day. Be blessed. Bye.